315 damage plus sneak attack. Let's talk about that. Welcome back to good mythical spellcasting. Your host, as usual, Toshio Thunder here. This is an empowered Hellfire Ray. But you do the math in your head, maximized Hellfire Ray. You do the math in your head and you say, Toshio, you're off by a bit there on your damage estimation. But herein lieth the rub. Draconic Bloodline Red, we deal 1 extra point of fire damage for every die we roll on a fire damage spell. So we have 3 rays that we use with a ranged touch attack. If they hit, each one of them will deal 15 times 6 damage plus 15 because this is a maximized spell. It will deal the maximum amount of damage if it hits. Let's go burn something. Come on. A boom! Let's count some damage. This is Fearzan. Do you know the reference? A game called Little Fighter. Man, that takes me back. I used to be good at that thing. It was a pretty incredible game. A little bit buggy. Kind of reminds you of something. Free to play. It seemed like it was developed by Koreans, just on account of the language and the artistic style. But let's talk about damage. So you can see we have 9 levels of Sorcerer, a level of Rogue, and then we took the accomplished Sneak Attacker feat so that we could level up Arcane Trickster. Arcane Trickster is a prestige class that requires 4 points in Trickery, Mobility, and Knowledge Arcane. Yes, Knowledge Arcana. And what it gives you is rather incredible. At level 10 of Arcane Trickster, you can deal sneak attack damage with all of your damaging spells. And it hits them for 1 iteration of sneak attack damage with each spell that you cast. It is not multiplied for like magic missile. It's not as though each missile does a sneak attack. It's just 1 sneak attack damage on top of everything. But with a level of Rogue giving us 1 sneak attack accomplished for 2 sneak attack dice, and then 5 sneak attack dice from Arcane Trickster, that's 7d6 extra damage. But wait, there's more. We have the level 2 spell that I love so very, very much, Sense Vitals. At level 15, it gives us another 5d6, so it's 12d6 extra damage to our sneak attacks, and that is 12d6 extra damage to each one of our very lovely spells. So let's go ahead and make ourselves invisible so that we can sneak attack all day long. Sweet, sweet Susie. 1 minute and 50 seconds. Did we just skip that cutscene? I believe we did. Almost. Never mind. We did not skip the cutscene. I am invisible, but also glowing red. I like how... excuse me. The spell description says that it makes your eyes glow red. And yet what I see is a nimbus of malevolent glow about my person. So let's go ahead and go into our level 9 spells. And... actually... let's go down to this one. Just a delightful little Hellfire Ray. It's a level 6 spell. It's not even empowered or anything. Let's see what we can do. And a Splowy. Yeah, it's still bugged. That's a lot of damage! Holy cannolis. So... Hellfire Ray is still bugged, but I suppose in a good way. It appears we did a grip ton of sneak attack damage there. That is a lot of damage. 110 being... what's this? Durability? Durability. Oh, is that damaging his gear? I suppose. Okay, yeah, so we did 45 fire damage and 65 sneak damage. And then another 45 unholy and another 48 as sneak damage. We're rolling 15d6 sneak attack damage. Dear goodness. That is a lot of damage. So, Hellfire Ray, is that what it's called? Hellfire Ray is sort of bugged because you're not supposed to add sneak attack damage for every type of damage you deal. And that leads me to believe that maybe I should have picked up the Elemental Assessor spell, because that deals like one damage type of every element to a massive degree. So let's just use a level 2 spell. This is a level 20 character, but what's the worst that a level 2 spell could do? Let's just Burning Arc these fellas. Oh, I guess it could do a lot. I guess it could do a whole lot. 121 damage with a level 2 spell. Let's keep having some fun. Now, obviously, at level 20, you should be facing some tougher enemies, but 121 damage with a level 2 spell? I'll take it. Oh, another fun fact, you can actually soft lock the game by killing Amiri here. If you kill her before she kills these 3 guys, then you cannot progress through the game. So now would not be a good time for me to drop a fireball. Let's just cast this neat fiery bodies spell on ourselves that makes us oh so cool, but in a hot sort of way. And let's just run up and stab somebody. What do we do in melee? Well, we miss. Okay, that makes sense. Fair enough. 56 though, not bad. As he takes a burst of fire damage. And now that we're through that little thing, we'll open the door, and Amiri comes up and shuts it. So, this has been a quick look at one of my concepts for a Scorched Earth type of character. We do have some defensive spells, and I still haven't figured out how to get, what's it called? Meta magic to work properly for the Sorcerer. Like, how do I use my meta magic spells? Maybe if I rest, then they'll show up in my spell selections, but at this time I'm not sure exactly how to use them. They're not here in my abilities, and we get a few abilities here from our classes. We'll pretty much never use those. Actually, ranged legerdemain. You can use your sneaky skills from range. That's kind of cool. Hey, there it is. It finally showed up. So we did a regular Hellfire Ray, and you could pause the video and just see the incredible, ridiculous, ludicrous amount of damage that it can do. Let's do more. So let's use a maximized Hellfire Ray. And we do not have our sneaky skill up right now. So let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. Did they send me daughters when I asked for sons? You're the saddest bunch of assassins, and by the time I'm through, I'll maximize a Hellfire Ray into you. Get derped. Okay, come on. A boom! Let's count some damage. 110, 93, 96, 99, 98, 104. Oh wait, that's the old one. Let's compare it with the maximized version. 117, 123, 123, 124, 122, 123. How much is that? Keep in mind, currently I think that Hellfire Ray is bugged. It does way more damage than it should with sneak attack. But still, dear goodness. Also, I only made one attack roll, and I hit with all 3 rays on one attack roll. So that's another thing. It seems to stack all 3 rays on one attack. So I guess if you miss with one attack, you could miss with the ray. Let's have you two back off. Back off! Shrink ray! And turn off your intelligence, and let's play a game. The name of this game is called... What other spell am I going to cast at you? Let's do something simple. Oh, let's actually see... Chain Lightning, Hellfire Ray. I didn't pick up that Shout one, did I? Let's do a Fire Snake. Let's see how much damage Fire Snake deals. This one does not target friendlies, and oh, it does a good amount of damage. 138, and it affects in a line, so it's pretty good. You see decent range on it, good amount of girth to that line to where you can hit multiple enemies if they start coming toward you, especially, and it does not target allies, so that's especially useful. Let's go over my spells real quick. Actually, let's look at the build. So this is my character. We started as an Aasimar, the one that gives us dexterity and charisma. And what else do I have to say? We don't have the best attack values, but that's just fine. We have a decent chance of hitting, and anything that dodges us, we can just use things that don't miss to hit them with. Spells. Nuclear Apocalypse. So, we started with an 18 dex, and it's buffed up to 24 right now because we cast Fire Body, which helps us to hit with our spells. We started with a 19 Charisma and continue to put points in it, and then these stats here are exactly as they were at character creation. Strength at a 7. There's really no use for strength on this character other than just to carry around inventory weight, and you really don't need to have a whole lot of gear with this character. And also, if you start lagging and sagging, you can equip an item that gives you some strength. No big deal. Con 14, give us some hit points just in case things go wrong. Intelligence 14, that's actually pretty useful for this build because we do want to put some points into certain skills early on, as I mentioned earlier. Wisdom 7, it's a dump stat for us, especially since later on we pick up a spell that I'll talk about later that really protects us from most of the things we would need that wisdom score to defend against. And then charisma I already talked about. When we look at the abilities, these are the feats that I chose and some of the ones that came with my class. And you can pause the video here to take a look at the first page and the second page. And then we get into the spells and some more spells and abilities. And some of these are borked. It looks like this class is not too buggy when it comes to its spells and abilities, but here's a feat that's not described, so that's a bug with the game that has yet to be fixed, but hopefully with the next major update, I know they're going to squash a lot of bugs with that, and the game is playable now, so that's a big change. Getting into the martial stats, our combat maneuver defense is pretty poor, so that's something we need to look out for, but we can actually shape change into an elemental with one of our spells, and that protects us from getting knocked down. So let's go ahead and get into that. We don't need to talk about level 0 spells. In fact, let's start from the top. So we have Fiery Body, which does what you see there in the description. It's quite good for us specifically, and it really fits our character design, so I like it a lot. Oh, I also, did I mention that we're, a Red Dragon bloodline with the Sorcery School, so that... so that we can deal some extra damage with our fire spells. And then any other abilities we get from being a level 9 Red Dragon Bloodline Sorcerer, it's just bonus. The real thing we want is more damage for our fire spells. Mind Blank is really important for us. It lasts 4 hours, it affects the whole party, and it gives you a huge advantage against mind-affecting spells and abilities. So that's very good. protection from spells, which stacks with Mind Blank. Gives us an 8 resistance bonus on saving throws against spells and spell-like abilities specifically. Quite good. Summon Elder Elemental. The idea here is we could call in a Fire Elemental and he could tank for us, and then we can use all the fire spells we want and it won't hurt him. Oh, one thing I didn't mention about Fire Body, I actually forgot, is that if I hit myself with a fire spell, it actually heals me instead of harming me for 1/3 of the amount of damage that would be dealt, and we deal a lot of damage. So I can launch fireballs and heal myself and damage the enemy at the same time. There's a reason that fire works especially well with this build, and it also comes down to a spell like Firebrand, which gives extra fire damage to the melee attacks. Let's see. No. To all attacks by my party members, and also protects them from any fire spells that I cast. So I can just spam, again, empowered or maximized fireballs, which would deal like 175 damage plus sneak attack if I'm invisible. It's kind of good. It's kind of really good. What else? Sirocco is an interesting one. You can see the description there. Pause the video if you want to learn what that does. It can be really effective tactically, and because the fire type is damage, it's even more effective for us. The damage type is fire. Did I say that backward? Cone of Cold, just in case we need to deal an elemental type that's not fire. Fire Snake we talked about. Angelic Aspect is a useful defensive spell. The damage reduction specifically stacks with other damage reductions, so that's quite good. Elemental Body is one of those ones we can keep up most of the time, unless being transformed into an elemental means that you cannot cast spells. I can't remember if that's the result of this one or not, but I picked it up anyway. What else? Greater Invisibility is a must. You can read the description there if you don't know what it does. False Life gives us some extra hit points and lasts a long time. Animate Dead is a really good quick summon spell that can put up a wall of, well, old meat shield, a jerky shield. Controlled Fireball is like your regular fireball in every way except that it deals minimum damage to allies, which would still be a significant amount of damage, but at least I have a chance there to not nuke them if I don't have that Firebrand up. Back to level 4, Scorching Ray Empowered is quite powerful. And then Fireball. Again, Lightning Bolt just in case we need to deal some non-fire based damage. Stinking Cloud is really good for crowd control. You can read that if you pause the video. Vampiric Touch allows us to suck hit points from the enemy, which I don't end up using it very often, but it's nice to have there in case I need it. Sense Vitals is essential for this build, and that's one of the reasons why I'll be saving my level 2 spell slots for this. Mirror Image is a very effective defensive spell that I've talked about in my other videos. Invisibility, again, that's going to be very useful for us. We already showed off Burning Arc and Scorching Ray. They're quite good, and they can be empowered or maximized, or both, which means that we can fill up further spell slots with them. And they continue to be pretty good. Some things you need to do the math. For instance, you wouldn't want to empower Burning Hands. Burning Hands would deal 5d4 damage, so 5 to 20 damage plus 4 for us specifically. And you're like, well, if I empower it, it'll deal 1.5 times that much. So, like, 8 to 30, basically 10 to 30 damage. That's not a lot compared to Fireball, which deals 10 to 60 damage in a much larger radius as a ranged attack, or sorry, as a ranged target, so it never misses. Plus 10 for us. So you do need to do a little bit of math when you're considering empowering a spell, because it is worth it to empower Scorching Ray if you figure that you're going to hit with each one of those. It's a good, solid, single target spell. So that is this character, Fearzin. He's a scorched earth style sorcerer, and the trick to getting this guy into Arcane Trickster was to take one level of rogue and then select the accomplished sneak attacker feat so that we could maintain 19 levels of spellcaster. One thing I didn't mention about Arcane Trickster is that for all 10 levels of its progression, you continue to progress as though you'd gained a level in your spellcasting class that you select, just for the purposes of the power of your spells, spells known, and spells per day. So you wouldn't make progress in your bloodline, but that's fine. I really don't need much as a dragon blood sorcerer. The Arcana is really what I was going after, and it doesn't scale with level. It's one of those nice Arcana that follows you throughout the entire game and merely asks for the privilege of incinerating your enemies. There are several other builds you could try for this concept. This is mine, and it works really well, as you see, for dishing out damage. Of course, this is just a test save game, and I will probably actually create this character for one of my higher level parties at some point, although the Tank Daddy family seems to be doing just fine without a nuclear spellcaster in the party. But if you really want to roll those high numbers and just dish out incredible amounts of area effect damage, as well as single target nukes, then there's really nothing more powerful right now than the Arcane Trickster build. And again, there's several ways to accomplish that, but I prefer Sorcerer for several reasons, and I enjoy the extra damage I get out of the Dragon bloodline. There is an item in the game that allows you to deal 1 extra damage per die rolled with elemental damage, and that would be an incredible thing to pick up, because then I would be adding 2 damage per fire die that I roll. So for a fireball level 3 spell, I'd be dealing an extra 20 damage. That seems pretty neat. Anyway, guys, this has just been me geeking out, a whole lot of looking at stats and looking at builds, and I didn't tell you specifically, how each level went, just because there's really not much you need for this build, except that early on you want to take a level of rogue, and then the feat accomplished sneak attacker. You want to have put 4 points in trickery, mobility, and knowledge arcana, and then that unlocks Arcane Trickster. And that's a lot more useful, in my opinion, than going for something like 3 levels of rogue, which is it's not a bad build to go for 3 levels of rogue, but you can save yourself and get those extra spellcaster levels by going the way I showed you. And then I also highly recommend Empower and Maximize metamagic feats. Those can give some serious punch to your spells, and that also enables you to spend less of your spell book on attack spells. You don't need to have a level 5 fire spell if you have level 3 fireball that you can empower. That's quite good. It's quite sufficient for a level 5 spell, and so on and so forth. It really helps you to be able to use those higher level spell slots, or even some of the mid-level spell slots, for defensive and augmentary spells, and things that can give a little bit of flavor to the particular one that you want to try. This is a custom character portrait, by the way, and I can't remember exactly where I got this one. I got it from a huge pack that I just googled, like Pathfinder Kingmaker custom portrait pack, and that was one of the first 2 packs that I found. So I have like 400 custom character portraits. It's pretty gross. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I definitely enjoyed making this character, and before I forget to mention it, I've been using this Kingmaker character editor to change my starting experience to 3.6 million, and give myself a whole bunch of gold just in case I want to do that. But I haven't touched my stats here. You can, if you want to just break your game, give yourself like a 60 strength or something, and just... but I just wanted to make my character max level to test, because I have found that there's some very dangerous bugs in the game, and they can sort of ruin a few character builds. So I wanted to make sure this one was viable before I recommended it to you guys, and I'm definitely very enthusiastic about the result. Again, just to wrap it all up, we started off as a Red Dragon Blood Sorcerer, and we took a few levels. I think it was like 4 levels of Sorcerer. Then we went 1 level of Rogue, and immediately we picked up Accomplished Sneak Attacker as soon as we could. We had our 4 points in those 3 skills I've mentioned already. We leveled Arcane Trickster all the way up to 10, and that's a perfectly good progression to do if you're going to do this in your game. Starting out as a Sorcerer, getting to level 5 or 6, and then taking a level of Rogue, you can afford to do that. And then all 10 of those Arcane Trickster levels are just going to be a joy and a pleasure to experience as you power up. One of the things that I'd like to mention about this build specifically, real quick before I go, is it's one of those few builds that's really optimized for high levels, for, you know, something like you would pick up as a mercenary at level 15 to 20. But at the same time, if you decided to run this as your main character, just so you can have more stat points as we have here, it should work just fine for you. And if you do try this build and you have your own variant of it, I'd love to see how it works out for you. I'd love to hear your stories of just nuking people. I wonder how many Hellfire Rays it would take to evaporate Nyrissa. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye. He's like double dead.